Now, former SNP MP Winnie Ewing, an icon of the Scottish independence movement, has died at the age of 93. Mrs Ewing was elected to the House of Commons in the 1967 Hamilton by-election and served as president of the party from 1987 to 2005.
As the SNP's first female MP, she famously told the media, "Stop the world, Scotland wants to get on." Kirsten Campbell reports.
Winifred Margaret Ewing, Scottish nationalist. 18,390.
It was more than half a century ago that Winnie Ewing first came to public attention when she triumphed over Labour in the Hamilton by-election of 1967, famously declaring, "Stop the world, Scotland wants to get on."
Hamilton has made history for Scotland tonight. Thank you all.
She had two separate terms as an MP at Westminster before spending 20 years as a member of the European Parliament, where she became known as Madame Ecosse.
I haven't made nearly so many enemies here as I made in Westminster. In fact, I'm constantly amazed by how popular I am with most of the countries, but I do try to speak the languages.
When the new Scottish Parliament opened, Winnie Ewing was proud to take the chair as the oldest member.
The Scottish Parliament adjourned on the 25th day of March in the year 1707 is hereby reconvened.
The current presiding officer shared the news of her death.
We will all be deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Winnie Ewing, an inspiring and hugely influential politician, an MSP, an MP and an MEP.
I still have the card she sent me when I was first elected in my office, and I looked at it before I came down the stairs today. Hence, I think why I'm so emotional. She was a trailblazer for women, particularly in my party, but not just for the SNP.
The flags outside Parliament were lowered as a mark of respect, as inside, memories were shared.
She was fantastic company and an absolute legend within the SNP.
Well, we've lost an exceptional lady, irrepressible, indomitable. Always came back from electoral defeats to go on to even greater things. Certainly the most influential Scottish nationalist of the 20th century. But more than that, she founded the modern age of Scottish politics. It was her victory in a by-election in 1967 in Hamilton that set the ball rolling and to a Scottish Parliament eventually, and hopefully to Scottish independence one day. I mean, she defined modern Scottish politics. You know, lots of politicians adapt to the political climate. They bend with the wind. Very, very few make the weather. Winnie Ewing was one of these.
And on her arrival in Westminster, she kind of coined the phrase which she's become famous for, really, "Stop the world, Scotland wants to get on." How groundbreaking were those words and the language that she used around Scotland at that time? Well,
she's a very modern political figure. I mean, the 1960s was a period of great change, great social mobility. And there's a famous picture of Winnie sitting on a globe of the world in a park in Hamilton, and the phrase "Stop the world, Scotland wants to get on." And, you know, in comparison with the other Scottish MPs who'd be either landed gentry from the Tory party or, you know, fairly dour trade unionists from the Labour Party, she looked like, and was, of course, a breath of fresh air. She was a modern, lively, articulate woman who knew her mind and knew her business.
And of course, apart from being an MSP and an MP, she was an MEP for more than 25 years. So her influence spread far beyond Scotland itself.
Yeah, I mean, she was in all three parliaments, Europe, Westminster, Scottish Parliament. I'm just trying to think, I don't think anybody's achieved that from Scotland. And it's interesting how she got to the European Parliament. You know, after a major victories in the 70s, the SNP had a calamitous reverse in 1979. They got virtually wiped out. And yet within weeks, Winnie, unexpectedly, against the odds, triumphed in the Highlands and Islands Euroseat and then went on to define her position as Madame Ecosse in the European Parliament and let the SNP, not just the SNP, punch way above its weight, but Scotland. I mean, as a young SNP leader in the 1990s, you know, I went to Europe at Winnie's invitation to the European Parliament. Now, I was leading a party of 4 MPs and limited support at that time. You know, normally you'd have got to meet some functionary or, you know, the vice president or whatnots. But because I was with Winnie, because of her prestige, I was meeting the president of the commission, the conveners of the key committees and all of the commissioners. You know, her own personality and influence extended to give Scotland a huge and disproportionate political influence that had never had before, visibility on a European stage.
And how has her influence and her work inspired your political journey through the years?
I think when Winnie gave the SNP star quality, she gave it electoral credibility, but probably her most influential thing was the internationalist outlook of Scottish independence. It was actually stop the world, Scotland wants to get on. And in her defining of that through her European mission, she created the environment where Scottish nationalism, instead of being seen as something looking backwards, suddenly became something that was looking forwards. And it was British identity which became insular, and Scottish identity and Scottish nationalism which became outward-looking. And in no small measure, that was the mark of Winnie Ewing. She was once again creating the weather.
Ultimately then, what will be her legacy, do you think?
She'll be fondly remembered. She had great generosity of spirit, you know, a very rare quality in modern politics. When I won the SNP leadership, I defeated Winnie's daughter-in-law, Margaret Ewing, who was a lovely woman and was the favourite and expected to win. So it was a big disappointment to Winnie that I'd won the leadership. She was the first to congratulate me, but not just that. She, as party president, immediately instructed the entire party to get behind her new leader. She had amazing generosity of spirit, and that's how I think a lot of people will remember that personally, as well as this extraordinary role she played in the development of modern Scottish politics.
I'll examine some kind words about Winnie Ewing there. Thank you for joining us.
A great pleasure.
Winnie Ewing's unswerving commitment to independence made her the darling of the SNP conference.
Present Parliament is not the set of will of the people. It is merely a base camp on the climb to the mountain of freedom.
That remains an ambition for the party leader.
Winnie's contribution to the SNP, to our movement, to our party, to our country, is one of the reasons why we enjoy the success we do in the SNP today. So we've lost one of our shining lights.
Winnie Ewing was matriarch of a political dynasty. Both her daughter Annabel and son Fergus are MSPs. Her life, her career, leaving a legacy that still inspires the independence movement.